Welcome, welcome. Mm. Mm. Welcome, beautiful souls. Welcome into the space. Welcome into the energy. Get your cacao, get your tea, get your water, get whatever you need to get cozy and comfortable because we are about to embark on a storytelling journey. So I've been receiving codes from my spirit guides, from my ancestors, from life to share more of my story, to share more of my journey. And I've been feeling the nudge to share my story since 2018, but I've had a lot of layers and shadow work to move through when it comes to being seen, when it comes to speaking my truth, when it comes to sharing myself. And, a lot of work to do on the throat chakra, a lot of work to do in the root chakra surrounding fears and belief systems, and also getting really clear on my intentions. What is my intention for wanting to share my story and to share these codes? And my intention is for this story to reach the ears of the people that need it most, for this story to reach the people who need the medicine of this journey, who need the reflection of themselves to know that there is light on the other side of these journeys and these ups and downs, and really for my soul family to find me as I shine my light, as I share what I've had to navigate through, for others to see themselves in me and find me and resonate, and hopefully find medicine in what I have to share. So those are my intentions. And like I said, I've been receiving these codes to share more and more. And so here I am. And so where best to start in the beginning? And in the beginning, when I was born, I was always a very sensitive soul, very empathetic and compassionate little being. I could really feel into the emotions of others very deeply. And I was sensitive. I used to cry a lot. And, I would really get bullied and teased for my sensitivity. I was a crybaby and always crying. And um, I was really bullied a lot for that. But I always had this connection to the unseen realms. I think I was always a very spiritual little being. But even from a young age, I knew that I had to hide my spirituality. So it was like I knew, I had this remembrance that it wasn't safe to speak openly about some of the things that I would like feel or experience. Um, and that wasn't directly, or at least not that I can remember. Like, I don't remember ever having like a vision and speaking about it and then somebody like shouting at me or something like that. That never happened. It was just something that I knew in my body, that I had this, like I was intrigued by the unseen, but it wasn't something that was ever around me or that I would see being reflected back to me. And it wasn't something that I spoke about to anyone either. Um, but I was always intrigued. I was always intrigued by psychics and shamans. And I remember wanting to be a shaman. I didn't even know what a shaman was, but I wanted to be that. Um, and, I was one of those children that my sister and I, we would make like mud potions and we'd climb trees and put out like the grass and the water and sand and, make different potions. That was us. That was us as kids. Um, and then you grow up, and you forget and you want to fit in and you want to be cool. And so yeah, I forgot that essence, and I wanted to be a cool girl and fit in with society. And you kind of just go with the flow of things. And so I really forgot my essence for a very long time. But before I went into that phase of forgetting, I remember being, I'm not sure how old I was. Maybe I was like 6 or 7, and there was stuff happening in my house. I don't remember what was going on, but I remember feeling like I really want us all to come together. And I set up like pillows in a circle, and I put flowers around the pillows, and I remember putting a candle in the middle of the circle. And when my dad came home that night, I invited everyone to sit on the pillows in a circle, and we all had to say one thing that we loved about each other. And so when I think about that, I'm like, wow, the medicine woman was inside of me all along. Um, and I had never seen that. Nobody had ever shown me something like that. I didn't know where that came from. And so that just shows you that these codes are within you from birth. You have them inside of you. Nobody can teach you, no one can tell you. It's just about you remembering. And so yeah, I held my first medicine circle at the age of 6 or 7. And I remember around the same time, around the same age, I went to a Catholic primary school, and they would teach the Bible. And I remember coloring in a picture, like a picture of different Bible scenes, and they had a picture of, it was literally like clouds in the sky and this man in the clouds with like a big white beard, and that was supposed to be God. And I remember my mom seeing me coloring in this picture, and she came to me, and I think she asked me, what I thought about God. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Because I didn't really grow up in a religious household. My parents weren't very religious, they weren't very spiritual. But they were open. They were always open to the power of life, and yeah, very open minded. But my grandmother, I would spend a lot of holidays with my grandmother, and I would go to church with her. But my parents weren't super religious. So yeah, I was coloring in this picture, and my mom came to me. And I remember she said to me, she was like, I don't think that God is this man in the sky. I think that God is everything. I think God is in the trees. I think God is in the clouds. I think God is in the flowers. I think God is in the animals, God is in you, God is in me. So I think God is everything. God is life. And that really stuck with me. That I have never forgotten that. That has always stayed with me until today. It really resonated with me. And I was like, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And so that teaching has I've carried that teaching with me for the rest of my life. And I remember telling my mom recently, I told her, I was like, yeah, you said this. And she was like, I said that. I was like, yes, you did. You did. You planted all these seeds from a young age. And so yeah. And then, like I said, and then I forgot. I went into this period of forgetfulness. I was really bullied for my sensitivity. And then, you get older and you want to be cool, and I wanted to fit in, and I wanted to like be something that I wasn't. Uh, and so fast forward to 2014. So 2014 was a big year in my life, and it's really been a 10-year cycle because so much has closed out for me this year in 2024 from 2014, things that I've carried with me since then until now that have only really cleared out now. And I feel like I'm in a new cycle, in a new phase. But yeah, I really carried a lot of shit with me for 10 years. The bag lady for 10 years. Um, So yeah, 2014 was a big year in my life. A lot of shifts, a lot of changes. I had this person in my life who we were so close. We were so close, two peas in a pod, wouldn't take two steps without each other. And then they got into a really abusive, toxic, very heavy relationship that just pulled us apart. And that really messed with my mind, really messed with my world, really messed with my understanding of life, with my foundation. I felt like my whole foundation was breaking and I didn't understand. And yeah, that's when I was being guided to start my journey of internal work. And in that same year, I sat with mushrooms for the first time. And in my journey, that was when my remembrance was really activated. And I could see everyone's auras. I could feel the trees. I was talking to the plants. I could feel how everything was alive. I could feel that God essence that my mom was talking about, how it was present in everything. I could feel the sentience of the rocks, of the water, of the trees, of everything. And in that same journey, my sister and I were talking telepathically. So she was on one side of the field of the grass and I was on the other side. And we just tapped into one another and she was like, wait, can you hear me? And I was like, yes, I can hear you. We're like, oh my gosh. And we started talking telepathically. And so that journey activated so much in me. I was like, yes, I knew, like I just remembered, I knew it. I knew that everything in life was alive. There were different dimensions of being that existed around us that our 3D eyes just couldn't see. But energy was real, dimensions were real, different beings were real, and all of that came back online for me. And I was just like, wow. And I remember at school, so I was in I was in matric in grade 12. And I remember people would like would walk and pull the grass or the plants like out of the ground. Like as you walk, you pull the grass. And I remember after that journey, I would see people doing that, and I was like, no, don't do that. Like, don't do that. Like they can feel it. And I would tell everyone how like everything around us is alive, and all these dimensions are existing around us at every moment. And you know, like there's so much more to life than just what our eyes can see. And so I was really activated. And I started, yeah, just thinking about life and religion and spirituality. And I remember having this vision of the stars, and the stars gifting these humans the story of existence and life. And these humans had to personify this this knowledge and these codes and make it digestible so that people could understand what these star codes meant. And so I was like, this is how religion was formed. Like these people received these star codes, and then they had to like turn these metaphors, or like turn these things into metaphors so that it could be understood by humans. And so all of these people went back into their different parts of the world and told these stories, and that's how religion was formed. And yeah, I really like went on this thing, and I remember sitting and I had like 3 or 4 girls around me, and I was like sharing this. I wrote this on a piece of paper, and I was like, this is what I think like we came from the stars and blah, 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 blah. um and some of them were into it, some of them were like, okay, Mila, you're crazy girl. um so so yeah, so I was on this journey, and I remember reading this book that also spoke about how like the foundation of all religions are the same. And so that's what sparked this thing. I was like, okay, the foundation is the same, so maybe it actually all comes from the same place, and it's actually the same source and the same message, just told differently. And maybe we all actually come from like the same star, and maybe everyone's God is actually the same God. And so I was like really starting to think about these things. And then in the same year, I got tonsillitis, and then I went to get my tonsils removed. It was supposed to be just a super quick procedure, take your tonsils out, go home. But I ended up having a really severe allergic reaction to the anesthetic, and I went into anaphylactic shock. And yeah, I almost died on the operating table. I think my heart rate went down to like 5 or 6 beats per minute. And when I woke up, I knew something happened to me. I knew I almost crossed over. I knew something happened. I woke up and I was crying, and I was like, what happened? What did these people do to me? And then they told me what happened. And I was in the hospital for a few days. And in that time, I also remember dealing with a lot of grief around people who I thought would be there for me, people who I thought would show up, people who I thought would care more. And they weren't there. They didn't show up in the way that I thought they would. And so that really affected me. And, I was carrying that around for years and years and years, holding onto resentment, not even knowing that I had so much resentment. And only this year, I think the end of last year, I spoke to this person and I told him the truth. And I said, I felt really abandoned by you in that time. And the moment I spoke it, it was like I felt this weight just lift out of my body. And I didn't even know that I was carrying that resentment until I spoke my truth and I said, this is how I felt. And then I saw this resentment leave my body. And I was like, whoa, I didn't even know that I was resenting you this much. But it was a big healing moment because then I was able to let it go and I was able to, let it go, release it. And there's so much power in speaking your truth and speaking how you feel. And even if you think it doesn't matter, or oh, it's past now, and oh, it's too long, like, no, speak your truth. There's so much healing in speaking the truth of how you feel. And once you let it out, once you give it a pathway out the body, you really feel that weight leaving you. So, and I experienced that. So that happened. So that was in August. No, sorry, that was in October. That was in October. And then 2 months later in December, on Christmas Eve, it was Christmas Eve. And I remember feeling really like I was getting sick. And at the time, I used to get sick like every 3 months. I was getting sick. And when I would get sick, I would get sick. Like I would be down and out, and like I had to stay in my bed for like 2-3 weeks. I would be sick. And so it was Christmas Eve, and I could feel myself getting sick. And I was like, no. I think I had just matriculated, so I was like, no, I can't be sick. It's New Year's. Like, I need to send it. I'm ready to party. Like, please, I can't be sick. So I was like, let me just get on an antibiotic. If I take an antibiotic now, then I'll be fine. I won't be sick. So I got an antibiotic. Back then, now I write it out. I don't take antibiotics anymore unless it's like diet need to have to, otherwise not an antibiotic. But back then I was like, give it to me because I'm not trying to be sick. But also I would get so sick like that because I was just so not in alignment with my heart. And so I had a lot of stuff in my energetic field. And so I would get really sick and be sick for like months. Like I would be sick for like a whole month before I'd get better again. So I was like, let me just get this antibiotic. Got the antibiotic. And I remember I was like having a photo shoot in my room. And while I'm doing the photo shoot, I can feel like, no, my face is getting hot. So I thought it was the foundation I put on. And I was like, this foundation is not right. So I went to go wash my face, put the water, and I looked in the mirror and I was like, my nose was like this huge. My face was swollen. I was so red and I was like, yo, something's not right. So I ran downstairs and I went to my mom and I was like, Mom, I think I'm having an allergic reaction. And she was like, shit. Okay, she ran upstairs, and luckily or unluckily, I had that experience in October already. So they gave us an EpiPen. So we had the EpiPen. And so my mom ran upstairs, and then as she went upstairs, I could feel the life leaving my body. I could feel my breath leaving my body, and I was melting, and I really felt, I was like, I'm out of here. Do safe. It's been good. Thank you. It's been real. And then my mom came back. She gave me the jab, and then I could feel the breath coming back into my body, and I came back to life. And so they didn't train us, although we had the EpiPen, they didn't train us on how to use the EpiPen, which is a very big thing. Okay, if you administer somebody with an EpiPen, make sure that they stay laying on the ground, flat on the ground, or even with their legs up for at least 10 minutes. So we didn't know this. And my mom gave me the EpiPen, started to feel the life coming back into my body. And we were like, okay, let's just go to the hospital to make sure that everything is fine. So I stood up, which you're not supposed to do. You're supposed to stay down. And I stood up because when you get this administration of adrenaline, when you stand up too quickly, your blood pressure can drop, and people get heart attacks because their blood pressure drops too quickly, and then they like, and people die like that. So we didn't know. So I just stood up and I started walking, and then all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, something's not right. I'm back to where I came from." God, and I fainted again. And I remember it was raining, and my people told me they couldn't find the keys and they couldn't open the gate. And I remember my sister, like, I kind of came into consciousness a bit, and my sister was over me, and I remember hearing the desperation in her voice, like, Mila. And it was like that, her saying my name and hearing that desperation. Like, I was like, oh, my sister doesn't want me to die, and I'm not ready to leave my sister, so I'm coming back. So my sister's voice really saved me, because I heard her, and I was like, it's not my time to leave. And I came back to my body, and yeah, I woke up in the car. I was like, hey guys. Everyone was just looking at me like, what the fuck, girl? And I was like, yo, even me, I don't know what the hell. So we get to the hospital, and I remember this ambulance man, he led us in the back of the hospital where they take people through the ambulance. And so we went in there and I got a drip. And people in the front of the healthcare, in the front of the hospital, came to the back and they were like, why are you here? You were supposed to come through the front. He wasn't allowed to bring you in the back. And I'm like, I'm literally half dead and you are shouting at me. What the hell? So I now today I have such a passion around healing and safe spaces for healing. And I always knew the healthcare system, the way the hospital is set up, the way it looks in the hospital, the way they treat you in the hospital, wasn't a space for healing and for love. It's not a place that cultivates real healing. And so yeah, I left there really thinking about that and really just feeling disappointed. But I was like, this is supposed to be a place where people are cared for, and people are moving through so much already with their illnesses or whatever it is for them being there. And there isn't the softness, the consideration, the gentleness, the love that you would hope to receive in a space that is meant to be for healing. So I left there really pondering that and questioning that and just wondering, like, why certain systems are run the way that they are. And so yeah, I will stop there for now. Part one of the journey. I think I'm gonna do this in maybe 3 or 4 parts. So yeah, part one of the journey was me having these abilities, these gifts, this deep sensitivity as a child, and then forgetting, and then being reactivated and remembering, and then yeah, moving through near death experience and really questioning what healing and care look like. And so thank you for listening. If you've made it this far, I will be back next week with part 2 of the journey, where we will explore my story from between 2016 and 2020. And then part 3, I think we'll explore between 2021 up until now, 2024. Love and blessings, beautiful soul.